Poštovani gledatelji, lijep pozdrav, gledate emisiju Aktualna Hrvatska. Naša današnja gošća je izvršna direktorica Montessori grupacije, gospođa Leonor Diaz Alcantara. Razgovarat ćemo o samim procesima, odnosno procedurama u Montessori edukaciji, općenito o tome što edukacija treba biti, ali naravno i o suradnji Montessori grupe s Hrvatskom. Leonor, hello and welcome. We are so happy to have you here.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
As I've said in the introduction, you are the CEO of Montessori Group, so perhaps at the beginning, for our viewers who are not so familiar with the Montessori approach, what does it stand for?
Okay, so the Montessori approach is it's an approach, it's a philosophy, it's not a curriculum, which means that it can be used in any environment, in any country, in any culture. It was started by Dr. Maria Montessori. It's important to say that she was a doctor because it means that her approach was developed using scientific means. So she was very much about looking at how something worked, creating an approach, and then looking how that worked, and it was constantly evolving. So it didn't suddenly just come into being, you know, at the beginning of the 20th century and set in stone. The Montessori approach is something that evolves to meet the needs of the time, and that's really, really important. To give you a very quick summary of what Montessori believes in, and there's lots of books about it, but I'll give you a very quick summary. So pretty much it's about looking at the child as an individual. It's looking at trying to develop the child to fulfill its potential. And some children are good at some things, some children are good at other things, some children are slower to learn, some children are faster to learn some things. So it's very much looking at the child, what we call being child-centered, looking at the child and saying, what does that child need? What we believe in doing is empowering children to learn. And so we have what we call freedom within a framework. So within a Montessori setting, whether it's a classroom, wherever it's happening, there are certain activities, but a child is free to choose when it does the activity and how long it takes to do that activity. And the reason why that's important is there may be children that if you give them a maths problem, they do it in 10 minutes. And if you have a class that's, say, 30 minutes, for 20 minutes that child is bored because it's done the maths problem. So in a Montessori, once that child's done the maths problem, it can go on and do something else. There may be another child that's going to take 40 minutes to do that problem. And again, if you cut after 30 minutes, that child's not going to do it and is going to think, oh, well, I'm not good at maths. But if you give it another 10 minutes, it solves the problem, and then it goes away thinking, oh, I know how to do maths. So it's very much about giving that freedom, but within the framework. And it's also very much about covering a whole range of activities. We learn through doing things. So what we call learning through play, learning through doing activities every day, because then you get both muscle memory and, you know, your brain remembers as well. So it's a very scientific approach to education.
So what would you say, what are the key elements of Montessori, and how are Montessori teachers and pupils, students different from the regular ones?
Okay. Well, we see the teachers as guides, facilitators. So we don't believe that children learn best by being sat in a classroom and having someone say, this is my knowledge, I'm giving it to you. We believe that children learn by themselves. And the teachers are there to facilitate that learning, to suggest things, to role model how the children should behave. Because it's also about social skills as well, and emotional skills, not just about academic skills. So the children from who have gone to Montessori actually, and there's research, particularly in the States, that shows this, are much better at things like literacy, numeracy. They have better social skills. They have better emotional skills. And in fact, there's a piece of research that was published, I think last year, that showed that adults who've had at least 2 years of Montessori have better physical and mental well-being as adults than those who haven't, because it teaches those skills that you need to be successful in life.
In general, successful in life. I read somewhere that Montessori teaching discourages some conventional measures of achievements, such as grades and tests. Yes. So how do you value your...
Because again, each child is individual. So, and this is true of human beings. You know, if I'll give you a personal example. You know, I go to the gym, and there's lots of people who go to the gym. Now, you know, given my age and given that I haven't been doing exercise for a long time, for me to be able to do 10 repetitions of something is an achievement for me, right? For someone who's 20, that's probably not an achievement. But the fact that it's an achievement for me, that it makes me feel good, motivates me to go and carry on doing that. And that's the same with grades. You may have children that if you grade them through this kind of, try and put them into a box, they won't succeed because they're not particularly good at it at that time or under those conditions. And then you create a sense in that child that it's not good at maths, or it's not good at reading, or it's not good at painting. And it may be that child is, it just needs a longer time to develop. And so we don't do grades, but the teachers are trained to be able to evaluate, is that child progressing or not?
Oh, that was my question.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Is it hard to recognize whether,
No. I mean, we have 100 years of Montessori, so we know what we're looking for. So we're quite good at that, yeah.
You have kindergartens and schools all over the world, and you have years and years of experience. What major changes have you noticed in the students who have welcomed that Montessori approach?
Well, as I said, they turn out to be adults that have better social emotional skills, and that's really important, particularly for the future. And I'll tell you why, and particularly in the world of work. And I get asked to talk a lot about the future of work. It is recognised everywhere. This isn't just us at Montessori saying it. It is recognised everywhere by World Bank, by UNESCO, by McKinsey's, by anyone you can think of, that the skills that the workforce of the future are going to need in this digital age are not the skills that we're teaching children in education today. We don't need to learn facts anymore, because you can use your phone and look up more facts in 5 minutes than I learned in my whole school career. What we need to do is we need to teach how to think creatively, collaboratively, critically. So if you have all this information, how do you pick out what is true, what isn't? How do you pick out what's important? How do you innovate? How do you work in teams? So although the basic skills, which we're very good at, still remain, those what we call social and emotional learning skills are the ones that are going to be needed in the future. This is, as I said, this isn't just us saying it, this is everybody saying it. And everywhere I go, people say to me, I go and speak at conferences, and the same thing, I hear the same thing, our education systems are not preparing children today for the work in the future. So what we do, these skills that we know we can see children develop within Montessori are important skills. Social and emotional learning skills are important skills for the future of work. It's an economic fact. So we're very good at that. Montessori, children that go through Montessori are much better at it than children who don't go through Montessori. And they're better at numeracy, and they're better at literacy, and they're better at self-regulation. So being able to regulate their emotions. Being able to, avoid conflict and know how to deal with situations. Those are all skills we need, and those are things that Montessori is very good at teaching.
Okay, excellent. Before we go to Montessori and Croatia, I would just like to explain Montessori in terms of technology. So technology is something that is present today and definitely will be in the future. How does Montessori work with technology?
Okay, well, we're slightly unique. So I'll talk a little bit. So there's 3 big Montessori organizations in the world. We're one of them. And where we as the Montessori group are unique is that we have embraced technology, and we did it right from the start, because we recognize that this is the world that we live in, and children are exposed to technology. You can't say to a child, no, we don't do that, because they're going to see a phone at home or an iPad. I mean, it's inevitable. So for us, it's important that we teach children how to use technology as a tool. Technology is a tool for them to have use of, not for the technology to use them. And so for us, it's important that we encourage children to understand about technology, how it works, understand about, the internet, understand that, what they should be aware of, what they shouldn't be aware of. But of course, that combined with the use of you know, the things that we do traditionally, because we can't just put a child in front of a computer. You know, a child needs to be able to socialise with other children. It needs to be able to learn how to do things with its hands. So it's a mixture, it's a balance, which is what our lives should be. You know, we, even as adults, we shouldn't be sat in front of a computer all day. So very much we believe that's really important. And we believe that that is being very faithful to Maria Montessori. Maria Montessori was an innovator. She was a pioneer. You know, in her lifetime, the telephone was invented, planes were invented, television was invented. She made use of all of those things, you know, when they came on board.
She would like computers.
She would like, I'm betting she would have bought the first iPad. You know, I'm betting on that, you know, because she was a pioneer. I mean, even like with women's rights, she spoke about women's rights in 1896 at the first Congress for Women's Rights. I mean, she really was a pioneer. So you know, I'm very comfortable that she would have wanted what we're doing to happen.
Yes, and technology is inevitable, as you said. So
we are now in a digital revolution. Whether we like it or not, we can not like it, but we can't avoid it. So we might as well learn to live with it.
Montessori education is, of course, recognized and welcome in Croatia. In 2000, Croatian Montessori Society was established, but besides from developing this approach to children education, you are famous for your social impact. So can you remind us, what have you been doing in Petrinja and in the whole region of Banovina?
Okay. So yes, so when I became CEO of Montessori Group, my kind of vision was that we needed to go back to the roots of Maria Montessori. Her first school was in the slums of Rome, working with the most disadvantaged children. So I said, we have to go back to that and social impact. And education is a way of changing society. So we do this all over the world. So we've done projects with street children in Pakistan. We've done projects in refugee camps around the world. And because I live here, one of the things that obviously I was here during the earthquake in Petrinja, and it struck me that what happens after a natural disaster often gets forgotten, because there's a lot of obviously, and it's brilliant, you know, sort of focus on relief, but it's reconstruction is important, and what happens afterwards, after a war, after a natural disaster. So we went and started working with an organisation called Udruga X, who were providing community activities for all age groups within the container villages. And we said, how can we support you? They are the first non-school to go through our accreditation scheme in the world. Yeah, so this is a case study to show pilot project. And we have been working with them to get them through our accreditation scheme. We've been doing mentoring, we've been doing training. I've been down to visit them a couple of times myself. They have, in their words, found it life-changing. And we are delighted. In fact, they have been, and this is, no one knows this yet, but they have been shortlisted for an award, for an International Montessori Award.
Oh my God.
We will know next. I'm going to London on Wednesday for our award ceremony at the weekend, and we will see if they win, but they have been shortlisted. They have been shortlisted. And we will continue to work with them because they've done amazing work. So we have been helping them understand how they can bring Montessori into the activities they do. The thing about our STAR accreditation is that it's aimed at anyone. It doesn't have to be Montessori, because we believe that it's an approach that will benefit anyone. So that's what we've been doing with them, and we gave them a little bit of funding as well. We are looking at other projects. We're looking at a peace education project in Vukovar, which we will announce later the details of, but it'll be very exciting, I think, and very innovative. And I'm certainly very excited about it. I've been to Vukovar now a couple of times. I think it was last week, we went to Hvar to talk to the Mayor Hvar and of Stari Grad to talk about the potential for us supporting inclusive nurseries on the island. And again, that would be a pilot project, because it would be to say to the world, this is how you can bring quality education, and they have great nurseries there, but this is how we can bring quality education to particularly children with special educational needs and disabilities. And if you can do it on an island which has a lot of, you know, complexity and a lot of challenges, and you can do it there, and you could do it in other remote areas around the world. So again, this will be a first in the world in Croatia, in Hvar, if this works in the way that we think it will work. So again, it's very exciting. I have a great team here in Croatia. We're actually creating an udruga now in Croatia. Montessori Group Europe will be set up. We wanted to have a European base, and I said to my board, well, let's do it in Croatia, and they agreed. So that is currently, we're going through the process, through the legal process to set up an udruga here in Croatia. So that will be our European base.
So many good information. Thank you for sharing all of this with us today. I am actually from Glina. Glina is my hometown. Oh, yes. Okay. So I was just wondering, how did the children from that area, you know, after earthquake, how did they respond to Montessori?
I think they have found, from what we hear, they have found it really beneficial because it's very new, it's very different, and they've enjoyed it. They've really enjoyed it. We also did a very small project with Solidarna. We supported, where they actually were, and this was a project that we'd seen happen in India that had worked really, really well, where in the summer they had artists go down to the whole area and do street art with the children, painting murals. So that was we put a little bit of funding towards that, and Solidarna were our partner in that, so yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. I read that you had a help of Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, your ambassador, so you are also helping Ukrainian refugees here in Croatia.
So the Duchess of York is our ambassador. She's also a friend. I'm very privileged to have her as a friend. And so she came to Croatia in June and visited some of the work that we were doing. And we did a little bit of support for a nursery here in Croatia, in Zagreb, that is helping Ukrainian refugee children, and we supported them to employ some Ukrainian teachers, refugees who are teachers, in the nursery. I'm going to go and visit them when I come back from London, and this is part of our Inclusive Nurseries program. We also were very fortunate to meet with the mayor of Zagreb as well and talk to him about how, as Montessori, we can be supportive of refugee communities within Zagreb and the surrounding areas. And it's, for us, you know, it's something we want to continue doing. The Duchess is very keen to do that. In fact, she's got this project called Play in a Box, which is about boxes of activities and materials for children that will be given out for free for children that are disadvantaged. She will set up the company here in Croatia.
Excellent.
So she will be back.
Okay,
she will be back.
We'll welcome her back.
Back, yes.
Okay, how do you see society in Croatia? Are we ready for such, I would say, mature changes?
I think you are, is the answer.
It was like,
No. I think there are things that need to change. I mean, I'll be honest. There are things that I look at and I think, yeah, that may not be as advanced as it's been, say, in the UK. And let me just talk about those first, and then talk about the really good things.
Okay.
I think that the one thing that, and it slightly frustrates me, is I don't think Croatian people necessarily understand how good things are in Croatia. I think that I get, and it may be just because I'm not from here, and when people speak to me, they want to talk about the UK or they want to talk about other places. You know, I've lived in London, and I've lived in Spain, and I now live in Croatia, and you know, Croatia's not that far behind. But there's almost an attitude like we are so far behind, and I think, and everything that's in London is wonderful. I'm like, well, I lived in London. It's not wonderful, you know. I love London, but you know, I spend half of my time in London. But it's not wonderful. Life here is very good. Young people here, I think, are amazing. I am so enthusiastic about the future of Croatia because of that. I'm very impressed that people have a real, attitude of let's go do stuff. I love that. But they don't make enough of it. I mean, there's some fantastic Croatian companies, people, products, and, you don't talk about it. It's almost like a shyness about talking about it.
Yes.
I think that's the bit that frustrates me, that I don't understand, because...
Yeah, it's a bit sad that always foreigners say nice things about Croatia.
Yeah. That, I think, is something that if you can sort of change that, kind of almost get a little bit better at the PR, that would be a big change. And I think also, obviously, I think that there has been a big shift in the role of women in Croatia, but I think it needs to go a little bit further. I have kind of come across some attitudes where I thought, whoa, I remember that back in the 70s, and I'm here, in the 21st century. So I think there's something about sort of supporting women, young women, to really achieve their potential. I think that's really important. But the good things that I see, well, we did some insight work with a brand agency, Kofin, that we're working with here in Croatia, and it was really fascinating because the shift between 10 years ago and now, 10 years ago, the attitude of young people was that they wanted to go into sort of public sector jobs. Now, the majority want to go into private sector jobs. There's a shift in people seeing, young parents seeing education as a way for their children to have well-being. They don't see it as linear anymore, which I think is brilliant. I think there's also a shift in attitudes about what is it that young Croatians want from life, and they want a better quality of life, not necessarily security, and they understand that they may have to be entrepreneurial to do that or take risks. So that's really positive stuff. That's a really positive shift in the last 10 years, and I think that gives me huge hope for Croatia. I think Croatia could be, such a brilliant country, really, top country. It could be like Switzerland. It could be, well, it could be. Because I often hear this, people say, oh, but Croatia's small. And I'm like, yeah, but so's Luxembourg, So, the countries with the highest GDP are actually all small countries. So why not Croatia? Being small is not it's not an obstacle. It's a mindset. It's not an excuse. It's a mindset. And if you change the mindset, there's so much fantastic stuff. I mean, I wouldn't choose to live here if I didn't think this was an amazing country. I don't have to live here. I choose to live here because it's an amazing country, and I think it has such a fantastic future. So, yeah.
It's so nice to hear that. As someone who also lives in Croatia, you already answered this question, but what do you think should be done next? How can we do better? So,
I think, of course, you'd expect me to say this. Education is really important. I think there has to be that sort of understanding that if, as I said, the world of work is changing for everybody globally, and the countries that understand that and want to educate their children in a way that's going to make them absolutely ready to take on the challenges of this changing way that people work are the ones that are going to succeed. One of the things that we do is we consult with governments, not the Croatian government, they haven't asked us yet, but we consult with governments who understand that. And often they will say, but we don't want to talk about Montessori because Montessori has this perception. And we say, we don't care, don't talk about Montessori. For us, it's about the children. We will work with you. We will work with your educators. We will work with your ministers of education. You do not even have to tell anybody you're working with us, because for us, we won't tell anyone, because it's about the children for us. But I think countries that see that the world is changing, the children of today need different skills, and are prepared to make that shift, are the ones that are going to succeed. And I think Croatia has the ability to do that. Because there's certainly a lot of fantastic, dedicated young people here. But there has to be an understanding that has to happen.
Of course. We are near the end of today's show, so I would just like to ask you, for our viewers who are watching this and would like their children, students, to go to Montessori school or kindergartens, to just tell them where and how to
Well, we have as we say, we have accredited Montessori nurseries around the world, and we have them on our website, montessori-group.com. So if you're looking for an accredited school,
yes,
then that's where you will find the details of the accredited schools. Doesn't mean to say that the ones that aren't accredited aren't good. They may be good, but obviously there are certain things that, again, if you go on our website, just look at what you should be looking for as parents, and see if that happens in the school that you're going to go and visit.
Okay. Thank you so much for this inspiring conversation. It has been really a privilege to have you here in our studio, and we wish you all the best in your future work.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. Evo, poštovani gledatelji, bilo je ovo sve za još jedno izdanje Aktualne Hrvatske i do sljedećeg tjedna. Lijep pozdrav i ostanite uz program televizije Jadran.